Hurricane Irma has caused widespread destruction across the Caribbean, reducing buildings to rubble and leaving at least 10 people dead. The small island of Barbuda is said to be barely habitable. Officials warn that Saint Martin is almost destroyed, and the death toll is likely to rise. Irma is a Category 5 hurricane, the highest possible level. It is currently northeast of the Dominican Republic, heading towards Turks and Caicos. The most powerful Atlantic storm in a decade, it has sustained wind speeds of 285 km per hour, 180 miles per hour. Hurricane Irma first struck the dual island nation of Antigua and Barbuda. At least one death, of a child, was reported on Barbuda, where Prime Minister Gaston Brown said about 95% of the buildings had suffered some damage. "It's absolute devastation," he said after flying over the island. Home to some 1,600 people, the island is literally underwater. "In fact, I'm of the view that, as it stands now, Barbuda is barely habitable." He told the BBC that 50% of the Barbuda population were now homeless and that it would cost $100 million, £80 million, to rebuild the island. However, Antigua, with a population of 80,000, escaped major damage, with no loss of life, he said earlier. Saint Martin, an island that comprises two countries, the French territory of Saint Martin and the Dutch section Saint Martin, suffered terrible damage. Officials have confirmed at least 8 deaths in Saint Martin and Saint Barthélemy, popularly known as Saint Bart's. "It's an enormous catastrophe. 95% of the island is destroyed," top local official Daniel Gibbs said of Saint Martin. Saint Martin's airport, the third largest in the Caribbean, has been destroyed. The Dutch Defense Ministry said, "The picture is of many uprooted trees, houses without roofs and pleasure boats on land." The Dutch Navy has sent 2 ships from nearby Aruba and Curaçao to assist locals, but they have had trouble docking, according to media in the Netherlands. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said, "The island is not reachable at this point because of the huge damage to the airport and the harbour." In Puerto Rico, more than half of the island's 3 million residents were without power amid heavy downpours and strong winds. Officials there have said that power could be cut off for several days. British Overseas Territories Anguilla and the British Virgin Islands was also caught in the extreme weather. At least one death has been reported on Anguilla, a local official confirmed. One Anguilla resident told the BBC the island looked as if it had been struck by a nuclear bomb, with roofs torn off many of the main buildings, including the hospital. British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson said on Facebook that he had spoken with its chief minister. "My thoughts are with all those affected and the UK is taking swift action to respond. We have staff and a British naval ship ready to help those in need," he said. US President Donald Trump said he and his aides were monitoring Irma's progress. "But it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good," he told reporters at the White House. Projections suggest it could hit the state of Florida on Sunday. Officials started evacuations of tourists and residents of Florida Keys, a resort archipelago. Flights to and from several airports in Florida were being suspended, while Orlando's international airport said that commercial flights would stop from 1700 hours local time on Saturday. A state of emergency had been declared for Florida, Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, mobilizing federal disaster relief efforts. Another storm, Jose, further out in the Atlantic behind Irma, swelled to Category 1 hurricane strength and could be near major hurricane strength on Friday, according to the U.S. National Hurricane Center. Forecasters say Jose is expected to pass close to the Leeward Islands, a collective name for islands from Dominica to Puerto Rico. Its exact path is as yet unclear, but winds are not expected to be as strong. However, it may hit areas already devastated by Irma. Storm Katia, in the Gulf of Mexico, was also upgraded to hurricane status, and a warning was in effect for the coast of the Mexican state of Veracruz. Seeing multiple storms developing in the same area of the Atlantic in close succession is not uncommon at this time of year. Rarer though is the strength of the hurricanes. Hurricane Harvey made landfall in the U.S. as a Category 4 less than 2 weeks ago. Irma is expected to be at Category Irma when it arrives in the U.S. There have never been 2 Category 4 storms making landfall on the U.S. mainland within the same season, since records began. Are you in the region? Are you a holidaymaker unable to get a flight home, or a resident who has been preparing for Hurricane Irma? If it is safe for you to do so, share your experiences by emailing haveyorsay@bbc.co.uk. Please include a contact number if you are willing to speak to a BBC journalist. You can also contact us in the following ways.